For more on this, we're now being joined live by Johanna LeBlanc from Washington, D.C. She has served as a legislative director for the United States Congress and also a liaison to the White House, the Department of State. Welcome to World DNA, Johanna. I want to first start by asking that how do you assess the second assassination attempt on former U.S. President Donald Trump, which comes just weeks ahead of the U.S. presidential polls? Trump, just a short while ago, on his fundraising website, said that he will not surrender. How do you assess this impacting his campaign moving forward?
First, I think that America's democracy is being tested right now, is being tested in a way that it has never been tested before. We are indeed living in unprecedented times right now. But what I think the second attempted assassination exposed are a number of things. One, it exposes that both candidates need heightened security. So it's quite obvious that from the last attempted assassination that greater measures have not been in place. So not only does Mr. Trump need heightened security, but also Vice President Harris, who is running for the presidency as well. She too needs more security because she has also received a number of death threats throughout this campaign. Another thing that this scenario exposes is the gun violence here in this country. Far too many Americans have died because of folks having access to guns, just anybody, without proper vetting, right? And it also exposes a mental health crisis, right? So we need to ensure that we have proper resources, enough money allocated for folks to have access to mental health services. And another thing it exposes is the reality is that there is a real issue around domestic terrorism in this country. In 2021, the Department of Justice rolled out a national plan to combat domestic terrorism. The acts that's been committed against Mr. Trump have been committed by, so far as we know, have been committed by two Americans, two white men, two nationals, right? It wasn't two foreigners. It was not two migrants who came across the border illegally, right? It's Americans in this country who committed this crime. So the issue of domestic terrorism is an issue that must be addressed.
Right. Now, Johanna, just to expand on that, the suspect was about 300 to 500 yards away from Trump when he was nabbed. While on the one hand, the assassination attempt, as you mentioned as well, this highlights and it exposes that it's dangerous times in the United States. On the other hand, Secret Services being lauded for their prompt action. If you can perhaps draw a comparison between their prompt action taken by the law enforcement in this case as opposed to what happened in the Butler assassination attempt on former U.S. President Trump.
I think that it's great that they took prompt actions, but the reality is that America is a first world country, one. And secondly, America is a superpower, a nation that every other country around the world is looking to when it comes to issues around elections, when it comes to security matters. But yet we've had two failures on our own soil, right? And those were, close calls. So I think that the United States Secret Service and all of the agencies that are responsible for providing Mr. Trump with security, there needs to be a serious conversation, and perhaps there needs to be additional funding to ensure that this does not happen. Because from an international perspective, this does not look good for the American brand. Because the rest of the world is asking, what is happening? It creates a level of political instability that I don't think the United States government wants that to be the image around the world.
Right, Johanna, while the U.S. is in dangerous times currently, that's also what the Secret Service chief said during that briefing. Let's shift our focus to the suspect who is in custody. He has not made any statement yet, but the officials nabbed him with 2 backpacks of ceramic plates and a GoPro camera. How do you see these elements? Do you think that it signals an elevated level of sophistication by the shooter?
It doesn't sound like there was a level of sophistication, and obviously, we're still getting information, right? We don't have all of the facts yet. This is relatively new, but I think as we learn more and more, we will be able to make a better determination if this man was indeed a very sophisticated shooter, or if he was just some random guy with a passion or mental health crisis who committed this act. But another thing that I think is important to note here is that I am a big advocate for gun control, right? Because I do believe that everyone having access to guns is not going to make our country safer. Too many people have died in this country because of gun violence. But another thing I think that's important to talk about is that laws enough are not sufficient to change the gun violence issues that we have in this country. What we also must do is Americans all across America and people all across the world should do this exercise. We must sit in our dinner, while we're having dinner with our families, and ask ourselves, why do we hold hatred certain other groups? Why do we view people the way that we view them, right? Because laws, yes, laws are great because it's a piece of tool that you can take in front of a body of a judge and get redress after you have been harmed. But at the end of the day, we cannot legislate the hearts of men. So everybody needs to look at their heart and ask ourselves, why do we view certain groups of people the way that we do?
All right, well, Johanna, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA with your insights on this. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much.